break down money down here at the bottom and say why we would like to do it. Successful completion of the proposed effort and follow-on ENMD programs will give the U.S. military a viable, state-of-the-art weather modification capability again, like in Operation Popeye. These are both dated 1994 on the FOIAs, and I got them from sunshineproject.org. They are legit. Interestingly enough, Carbon Black Dust 2004, when it said it would be operational in the FOIA, and the Owning the Weather paper, Owning the Weather in 2025, which is Weather as a Force Multiplier, and you can see the credits for the people who wrote that, and it's got a couple lieutenant colonels in there. This was written at the Air Academy. The debunkers online say it was just a think piece. It doesn't actually mean anything. None of this is real. But interestingly enough, there's a slide on there that says CBD, which is Carbon Black Dust, and operational by 2005, which coincides with the two FOIAs I just showed you. And it gets even weirder. So I have this thing called the weather modification. WX mod means weather mod. WX is weather. MOD mod. That's military jargon for weather warfare. WX mod, Test Technologies Symposium 1997. There's two slides from this, and this is Dr. Arnold Barnes from the Air Force Phillips Lab. These guys right here. The Phillips Lab is giving a presentation at a joint Army Air Force meeting where he says weather modification using carbon black. Slide 1, weather modification using carbon black. Slide 2. Why would they do it? Increased precipitation, muddy dirt roads, flood fields, decreased true comfort, decreased tractability. The exact same reasons they did in Popeye. The exact same reasons that are mentioned in Owning the Weather in 2025. So this is the Phillips Lab doctor, same mention in the FOIA, at an Army-Navy conference telling them this is why we should do it. Oh, it gets weirder. Increase cirrus cloud cover. Shout out to the chemtrail community. Deny visual satellite or high altitude reconnaissance. Decrease light level for nighttime operations. Holy crap. Did anybody ever think of that? What, you could make cloud cover to make it darker at night. So you got the night vision goggles, they can't see a thing. Or if a satellite's coming over and it's going to be spying on your base, make clouds over your base, satellites can't see anything. Third step, directed energy weapons in space. There's a operational weather control in 2030 paper out there. Read that one. And they say just that. Lasers in space, make cirrus clouds, block that out. Very real stuff. This is as factual as you can get. You won't find it anywhere else on the net. Nobody's mentioned it, even though I've been talking about it for 3 years. So that's the weather warfare side. You see that history is indeed repeating itself. Now some new technology, cloud ionizers, electric rainmaking. This is using ions instead of silver iodide and all those chemicals as cloud seeds to use actual charged particles as cloud seeds. So up here on the top, you see Mateo Systems WeatherTech. This was used in Abu Dhabi. I've even got the U.S. patent number down there with it. Great article on this, cloud ionization, laser-guided weather modification on climateviewer.com. Of course, links in the details on the slide notes. Ionogenics ELAT system, cloud ionizer, electrification of the local environment or the local atmosphere. ELAT is what they called it. I actually talked to this guy on the phone. And he got shut down. Basically, somebody bashed him in a local newspaper. There was a hearing held. They cut his funding, and he just said, to heck with it. But he said that in their use, and this is interesting, while they were using the cloud ionizers down in Mexico, the local authorities said that there was like an 80% reduction in people coming to the hospital who had respiratory illness. And the reason why is because with the ions, it's the same as the air filter in your house. The ions attract pollution, to stick together, coagulate, and rain out. In this situation, you're doing it outside, and you're not adding chemicals to the atmosphere to do cloud seeding. You're actually using whatever pollution is there as a cloud seed, and you're just, zapping it, making it statically charged, and everything coalesces and makes rain. So in this case, he was saying that because they had these systems down there, they were sucking pollution out of the air at such a great rate that the hospitals actually reported less sick people because of respiratory illnesses. If that is in fact true, this should definitely be, offered up over in China. At least go over there and try it. See if they can suck some of those insane clouds down. Anyway, I'm not advocating for this, but I'd take it over silver iodide poisoning any day. Clear Sky Manager. This is made by AST, and you can see that this was also done in Dubai and several tests in Russia. And finally, the Australian Rain Technologies Atlant Cloud Ionizer. This is done down in Australia, I believe it's Adelaide, several different locations down there, and they did a whole bunch of science. They said, we actually made it rain several times with these pyramid-shaped ionizers. Fascinating. So it gets weirder. Then you have a company called Acquiesce, which is actually the owner of that, ex-Colonel retired Colonel David Kaczynski, CEO of Cyblu Incorporated. He's a U.S. Air Force company, quote, on the internet. This is how it's a U.S. Air Force company that modifies the weather with radio waves. Wait for it. They partnered up with Acquiesce, which is Acquiesce is offering sovereign states an augmented rainfall capability as a part of its new regional toolbox. I put this video off for like a week. So they said that they're going to use proprietary weather modification system operated utilizing resonance signals to divert oceanic atmospheric rivers into areas experiencing severe drought. So they say that signals are launched from ground-based servers to adjust flight paths of weather systems. Now, everybody's heard about HAARP steering the jet stream, whatever. This is actually a company who claims to steer rivers in the sky. I have read the weather modification application in Texas, and they actually got a permit in 2012 to do just that. And you can see right here, here's their target. All right, I think I got it. And they did just that. So in 2012, that's when Texas started getting flooded severely. And guess what? California dried up like almost overnight. So the interesting thing about that is there used to be an atmospheric river that would frequently visit California that no longer does. These are called tropospheric rivers or atmospheric rivers. Look it up. This is fascinating. The article is called How Texas Stole California's Rain. All right. So this cloud ionizer technology is so controversial. Is so controversial that the World Meteorological Organization's expert team on weather modification said, don't trust it. Basically. So now we're into the crazy part. This is where we get into the crazy train. Secretary of Defense William Cohen said that people are using radio waves to set off hurricanes, or mess with the climate, make earthquakes, set off volcanoes with electromagnetic waves. That's called geophysical warfare, and it's crazy time. Ionospheric heaters. Now, these are around the world. You can see 4 of the top ones right here. I'm going to try to shorten this up, guys, so I don't cough my brains out and we get to the end of this thing. HAARP is the number one big daddy of them all. It's up in Gakona, Alaska. You can see it over on Climate Viewer 3D as well. Let's go over here. I'm just going to clear this off real quick and we'll fly up there. So I'm going to put it on the satellite and I'm going to click on here and fly up there to HAARP. And there it is. And you can see the stuff from the picture. So this is the HAARP IRI. It is the Ionospheric Research Instrument. It is huge. Here's some photos of it. You can do all this yourself. This is 3D. And you can see the engines, the, Death Star 1, as I like to call it, the main headquarters where they do, this is the main building, their heads up display, I went and I got all the details for HAARP and put it in here. And their instrument pads and all that stuff. So fascinating stuff. Come check it out. And that's over on climateviewer.org as well. Back to the show. So this is the biggest one in the world, 3.6 million watts, 2.8 to 10 megahertz, and it has an effective radiative power of 5 billion watts. In Back to the Future, Doc Brown said that a lightning bolt was 1.21 gigawatts. 1.21, and HARP, I call it FARP. HARP is 5 gigawatts. That's insane. So what do they do with it? They can suck out radiation. They can suck the Van Allen belts dry. That's the idea. It's called radiation belt remediation. And the idea is that if somebody set off, this was at the Tether panel, this was Dennis Papadopoulos originally proposing some of this funding for what he called high altitude electromagnetic pulse protection. So people talk about Iran getting nukes, and they are so scared of that, but Iran already has EMP weapons. And the important thing about that is EMP weapons are more deadly than nuclear weapons at this point. The Heritage Foundation said that if an EMP went off over America, 2/3 of Americans would die in 6 months. It is exactly what you see in the TV show Revolution. And if an EMP were to go off, that's exactly what would happen. So they've come up with this idea that they could rapidly suck radiation out of the sky and do it with HARP. Now, this is them talking to politicians trying to get funding and, basically saying, hey, this is the good reason we want to make HARP. And also there was the Carrington event back in the 1800s where a solar flare made telegraphs catch on fire, and they would tap by themselves without anybody touching them. So if that happens in today's modern computer world, bye-bye society for quite a while. So the idea being that HARP, or ionospheric heaters, could rapidly suck this radiation out, dump it on the poles, and create artificial aurora. This is proper terminology, people. Artificial aurora by what they call radiation belt remediation. And it gets even sicker. This Dr. Jacob Borton said, while we're at it, why don't we just get rid of the Van Allen belts altogether? So he said, we don't think there's any downside to not having them. That's all. That's the most any of us can really say at the moment. Whoa. And pictured down here at the bottom is the high volt tether. The idea was to put like 20 of these tethers along the band you can see right here, and they would collect charged particles and point them down at the ground. Basically, the charged particles would attract to the ribbon, and if they'd ever interacted with a magnetic field line, it would cause a spiral, and those particles would rain out, again, creating artificial aurora. Now, that was never deployed, and the tether video you saw from the NASA secret tapes has nothing to do with that. So moving along.